Hello, as I've mentioned, I'm Cathy O'Brien, and I have the dubious honour of being one of the people that was one of the first chairs of Southwark Forum some 24 years ago. So therefore, I do go back a long way in the borough. And so some faces are familiar to me and some aren't. And that's wonderful, because I think that's the nature of Southwark and the diversity and range of people who live in the borough, work in the borough, and also who provide the arts. Now, I'm delighted to have two senior members of Southwark in terms of governance of the borough at a time when we're probably steering quite a rocky ship, or is it to sing troubled waters ahead? So I'm not cheering up you guys much with this, am I? Is Paul, are you going to join us?
Yes, sure.
Great. And I think what would be very interesting is to hear from the speakers the way that they themselves support arts and culture in the borough. So I'm going to ask them in their presentation. I'm going to ask them if they can in their presentation. Is that if you can just, I think it'd be very useful, because we sometimes just assume that we know what you do. And I wonder if you could start off by saying who you are and what your responsibility is and what that means in the borough. Because then I think we can appreciate the level of decision making and policy making that you guys are involved in and some of the issues that you're all dealing with. So if I can start off then with Councillor Peter John, who is the leader of the council. So I hope he's going to tell you what that means.
If I know, yeah. Okay, thank you very much indeed, Cathy. Thank you to Bridget and thank you everyone for inviting me today. The leader of the council, in this country there are various models of how local government is organised. In Southwark we have, and most councils actually have now, what's called the strong leader model, whereby all executive power is in my hands. Decision-making power is in my hands. Which makes me quite powerful, don't you, I suppose. But of course I share my executive power with my cabinet colleagues, so rarely do I take a decision without my cabinet colleagues being involved. But, you know, in terms of the political structure of the council, I'm sort of at the top of it and things cascade down, I guess. And what am I involved in? I'm involved with really setting the strategy for the council, ensuring that the manifesto that we were elected on last year is implemented, making sure that we're responding appropriately to events, and as I say, making sure that strategies for the future are being thought about and considered. And for instance, next month we're going to be launching a housing commission looking at the question of housing in our borough. There are two particular challenges which we face at the moment in terms of Southwark housing. One is how do we afford to maintain it going forward into the future, because it's hugely expensive to maintain. And secondly, how do we make sure that there's sufficient housing, affordable housing, for people who want to live in our borough. Our waiting list at the moment has jumped over the last 12 months from 15,000 to over 19,000 people wanting council housing, at a time when council housing makes up the smallest proportion of housing in the borough that it ever has. In 1981, the amount of housing in Southwark, which was council housing, was 66%. It's now below 30%. So there's an increasing demand for our council housing, for affordable homes for people to live in, but the percentage of housing that we have to offer within the borough is decreasing. So that's just an indication of sort of one issue that concerns me, but I'm interested in all strategic issues, including the arts and culture. And I suppose it's worth me saying a few words about my personal view of the arts and culture, which some of you will have heard before, because I have said it before, but I think it's worth repeating. I don't personally regard the arts as an added luxury. I don't believe that they are an add-on or a nice to have. I think that they are essential for our well-being. We all work very hard, and I think it's important that as part of our lives we should have some cultural enrichment. of whatever level, of whatever magnitude, whether it's just going to the cinema. You know, people need cultural enrichment and entertainment. And we need the arts to challenge us, to educate us, but most of all for us to enjoy. So I see the arts as an absolutely essential element. You know, even when I go to a performance or an exhibition, which, you know, maybe leaves me a little bit cold, I still appreciate the importance of that particular performance or exhibition. I recognise that it is taking forward our artistic conversation, whether in the borough or beyond. And I think it's also, you know, it was just occurring to me as I was sitting there, the art really is sort of one of the enduring elements, isn't it, of life over history. You know, we go to, you know, a city overseas and we'll visit its galleries. You know, whether you visit a gallery at home, you go and visit the galleries overseas, you know, in a foreign city. And I think that just speaks volumes about the way in which actually society values the arts. We do, as a society, I think, value the arts, but I just wanted to emphasise that personally, I really do think the arts has a vital role to play. And I know that Veronica, as our Cabinet Member for Culture, has a similar passion for our cultural and artistic heritage. So you've got two friends within Southwark Council, within the political cabinet of Southwark Council, who are very much on your side, and I hope that that is some reassurance. And I hope that we've been able to demonstrate that a little bit over the last 12 months. As Cathy indicated, we're living in really tough economic times. We have £34 million taken out of our budget this year as a council. We've got another £18 million of cuts next year, and we think a similar level of cuts in the year after. But what we've done as a council is try to preserve our arts funding as best we can. It doesn't mean that there haven't been some small cuts here and there, and for those I can only apologise, but we have done all that we can to try and preserve funding to our cultural sector. So I think it's fair to say that whereas we've said to the council, every council department, come to us with 25% savings over a 3-year period, that hasn't happened in arts and culture. I think probably maybe around about 10%. So we've done all that we can to protect the cultural work that goes on in our borough in terms of funding through the council. And I think the importance of the arts was underlined for me, and the artistic community in our borough was underlined to me in terms of the response to the disturbances that we saw in August. Perhaps the most iconic image that came out of Southwark after the disturbances didn't come through anything the council did. It came through the work of Peckham Shed, who went to Poundland in Rye Lane with post-it notes inviting people to put up their comments about why they love Peckham. And that peace wall went around the world. You know, right across the globe, people were looking at images of the peace wall in Peckham. And I thought that was fantastic, a statement, you know, of how the artistic community came forward and led the community's response to what had gone on. And, you know, I thought that was, you know, really life-affirming. So I think we've got a pretty vibrant, you know this, you know, I'm not telling you anything, we've got a pretty vibrant arts and cultural community in Southwark. We've already mentioned the Olympics and Paralympics and the preparations for the Queen's Diamond Jubilee next year also, and Veronica and Paul and Anya will be talking more about that in due course. But I think there are a couple of specific good news stories in terms of what's been going on in Southwark in the last 12 months. The South London Arts Map, I think, has been a really important piece of work, which I know many people have been involved in developing. The fact that we've got the White Cube in Bermondsey Street, the largest private gallery in Europe. It's a huge space. I mean, if you haven't been there, I'm sure you probably all have been in there, but it's a vast gallery, and it is really impressive. And, you know, to think that we've got the largest private gallery in Europe on Bermondsey Street, you know, as well as the other great galleries that we've got, international galleries at Tate Modern, etc., is wonderful news. The Space Studios opening a new space in Peckham, the South London Galleries Education and Artists in Residence spaces, Successful Estates programme. Very keen to see the South London Gallery working on neighbouring estates. Canada Water Library will be opening on the 28th of November, which includes a significant art space, which is really exciting, and I'm looking forward to paying a visit there on Monday actually to see what's been going on. An iconic building, and I think it's really important. I think hats off to us as a borough and as a council that at a time when other councils have been closing libraries and getting flagged for it, not only are we keeping all our libraries open in Southwark, we are opening new libraries, new facilities for people. And I think that is really good news story, because the libraries do have a role in our culture and artistic life. I think particularly with the new library at Canada Water, where there is a performance space, I hope that is fully utilised going forward. Art is absolutely key as well in the regeneration of our borough. And I was just talking to Bridget about the possibilities of what might happen at the Elephant and Castle, and she's already got meetings lined up with this person and that person to ensure that the agenda is there and top of the agenda. Not only public art, but support for artists going forward in the regeneration of our borough is so important. There have been some fantastic partnerships between schools and arts organisations, giving our young people an opportunity to excel. And I know, again, Southwark Arts Forum doing some sort of mentoring work, apprenticeship work, experience work, and I know many of your organisations will be doing similar bits of work with our young people, which again I see as absolutely vital. Last December, our youth unemployment figures in our borough, 25.3% of 16 to 24-year-olds were without a job. Now, that figure is only going to have gone up. We saw unemployment figures up again yesterday. So we could be around, I think 30% of young people in our borough, 16 to 24-year-olds, who don't have a job, which I think is, it's desperate, isn't it, for them and for their futures. And, I really do fear that we are going to see another generation of people who just don't have significant experience of the jobs market or regular employment. So anything, I think, that enhances young people's CVs, that they can put on applications for jobs, which makes them stand out, is absolutely vital. And that's why I think it's so important that the artistic community is open to giving those experiences to our young people, because, without a doubt, if you've been, working with an arts organisation, that will make you stand out, I hope, from another young person from another borough who maybe hasn't been doing that. So there is a vital role to try and give our young people experience right across the piece. And I know there's great pressure on you as organisations because so many young people do come forward and want to have that sort of experience with you. But please do all that you can to help them, because I think it's our duty. I think it's an absolute shocker. We've got the Shard opening, which is going to be employing 11,000 people. But yet we still got such high levels of youth unemployment in our borough. There's something fundamentally wrong. We need to be equipping our young people to be the ones who are working in the Shard, not only in the facilities management jobs, but in the really high-end earning jobs, as well as being pioneers of the arts in the borough as well. So, that aside, I do think our arts and cultural news story in Southwark is a good one. Thank you to Southwark Arts Forum for the work that you've been doing over this nearly 25 years, making a difference and bringing together so many artists and arts organisations in a single voice, and it has had an impact on the work that we do as a council. It does mean that we can have a single voice that we can go to, speaking on behalf of so many different organisations in the borough, and it's really useful to have that, actually, so that you can have that conversation, that grown-up conversation about how we take things forward. So thank you to you. I hope I've reassured you that so far as the council is concerned and the political administration, we're absolutely on your side, even in these difficult economic times, and may our artistic community in Southwark continue to go from strength to strength. Thank you.
Thank you. Before we go on to Veronica, I'm just going to give you an opportunity if anyone... Oh, sorry.